I wasn't supposed to see it. That's the part that keeps replaying in my head. It was early morning. My 3-year-old was sick. My husband was still in bed, and I was just trying to get through another normal day, or at least what I thought was normal. My husband had alarms going off on his phone. He always sets multiple ones, so I picked it up to turn them off, and that's when I saw it, a message from my best friend. Since your pregnant wife didn't show up at my door this morning, I guess you still haven't told her about us. I don't remember breathing. I just stood there, holding his phone, reading that message over and over and over again, because my brain refused to understand it. My best friend, the girl I've known since we were babies, the one who held me while I cried when we found out my dad was dying, and my husband, the man who had been holding my hand through the worst months of my life, at least. That's what I thought. I walked into the hallway, quietly. I didn't wake him up. I didn't confront him. I just opened the chat and started reading. I didn't want to read it, but I couldn't stop. My hands were shaking, but I kept scrolling. At first, it didn't even feel real. Their messages looked normal, casual, like two people who knew each other well. But then, the tone changed. I miss you. I blinked, scrolled up. I wish I could stay longer. My chest tightened. No one understands me like you do. That one broke something inside me, because that's what I used to say to him. I kept reading, faster now, looking for something, anything, that would prove I misunderstood. But it only got worse. There were messages from late nights, early mornings, times he told me he was working, times I was home with the kids, thinking he was providing for us. I checked the dates. 4 months. 4 months of this. 4 months of lies. And I had no idea. That's the part I still don't understand. Because he didn't change. He was still kind, still attentive, still the man who held me when I cried about my dad. He would sit next to me, hold my hand, tell me everything was going to be okay, and then text her. I don't know how someone does that. I really don't. I scrolled further, and then I saw something that made it even worse. A message from her. You're going to tell her, right? A pause, then his reply. Not yet. My stomach dropped. Not yet. So this wasn't a mistake. This wasn't something that just happened. They had a plan. They knew. And they were going to keep lying for as long as they could. I covered my mouth so I wouldn't make a sound, because he was still in the bedroom, sleeping, like nothing had happened, like he didn't just destroy my entire life. I stood there for a long time, just holding his phone, reading the same messages again and again and again, trying to understand how two people I trusted the most could do this to me. I wish I could say I reacted immediately, that I walked into the bedroom, woke him up, and demanded answers. But I didn't. I just stood there, holding his phone, completely still, because the truth is, I didn't feel anger, not at first. I felt empty, like something inside me just shut down. And maybe that sounds strange, but if you've ever been hit with something this big, you don't explode, you go quiet. And that's exactly what happened. I put his phone back where I found it, carefully, like none of this had ever happened. Then I walked into the kitchen. My son was sitting there, watching cartoons, sick. He looked up at me and smiled. "Mommy, can I have juice?" And I smiled back, like everything was fine, because in that moment, I didn't have a choice. I'm a mother first, no matter what. So I poured him juice, sat next to him, and tried to breathe. But my mind wouldn't stop. 4 months, my husband, my best friend, the two people I trusted the most, and somehow I didn't see anything. No late nights, no weird behavior, no distance, nothing. He was still loving, still attentive, still there for me, especially with everything going on with my dad. And that's what made it worse, because I started asking myself, was any of it real, or was I just convenient? I thought about my dad, about the hospital visits, the treatments, the way he was slowly slipping away, about how my husband would sit next to me, hold my hand, tell me we'd get through it together. And now I knew. He was texting her right after. I felt sick, but even then, I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just kept thinking, because I knew one thing: the moment I confronted him, everything would change. My marriage, my family, my children's lives, all of it. And I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. Not today. I needed time. Time to think. Time to plan. Time to breathe. Because this wasn't just about me. I was pregnant. I had 2 kids and a father who was dying. I couldn't afford to fall apart. Not right now. So I made a decision. I would act normal, just for one more day. One last day before everything broke. That day felt unreal, like I was watching someone else's life. I moved through everything on autopilot, made breakfast, took care of my son, checked on my husband like I always did. And he smiled at me, like nothing had changed, like he didn't just destroy me. That smile. I don't think I'll ever forget it, because now I knew what was behind it. And somehow, that hurt more than anything else. The pretending. That night, after the kids fell asleep, I finally let myself break. I locked the bathroom door, turned on the shower, and just cried, quietly, because I didn't want anyone to hear. I cried for my dad, for my family, for the life I thought I had, and for the 2 people who took it from me. But even then, in the middle of all that pain, something else started to grow. Clarity. Because once the shock fades, you start thinking differently, more carefully, more strategically. I knew I couldn't just confront him. Not yet. Not without a plan. So the next morning, I started preparing, quietly. I made a list. Everything I needed to do, everything I needed to protect. My kids, my finances, my future. I gathered documents, important ones. Things I never thought I'd need to look at this way. Bank statements, insurance, legal papers. Every piece of my life suddenly felt like evidence. I even reached out to a lawyer, just to understand my options. I told my husband I was handling something for my dad, which wasn't exactly a lie, because I was. I just wasn't telling him everything, not anymore. And the strangest part? He didn't question it. He trusted me, completely, just like I trusted him. And that irony was almost unbearable. I also started packing, not everything, just the essentials, things for the kids, clothes, important items, little by little, so he wouldn't notice, so nothing would raise suspicion, because I needed time, just a little more time, before everything came crashing down. And the whole time, I kept acting normal, talking to him, cooking dinner, asking about his day, like nothing had changed. And maybe that sounds crazy, but I needed to be sure that when I finally walked away, I would never have to look back. By the next day, I was ready, not emotionally. I don't think you ever are, but practically, yes. I had everything I needed, a plan, a place to go, people I could trust, and most importantly, proof. Before I left, there was one thing I had to do. I needed to tell someone, not him, not yet. I needed support. So I reached out to 2 people, my mother-in-law and my best friend's mom. I know how that sounds. but her family was my family. We grew up together. Her mom was like a second mother to me, so I asked them to meet me, not at my house, somewhere safe, somewhere private. When they arrived, I didn't say much. I couldn't. Instead, I handed them my phone, screenshots, messages, everything. I watched their faces change, confusion, then disbelief, and then anger, real anger, the kind that makes a room feel heavy. Her mom kept shaking her head over and over again. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. My mother-in-law didn't even sit down. She just stood there, silent, processing. And then she said something I'll never forget. "No matter what happens, you're still my daughter." That broke me, because in that moment, I realized something. I wasn't alone, not anymore. They were on my side, completely. No excuses, no defending him, no, maybe there's an explanation, just support. And that gave me strength, the kind I didn't even know I needed, because now, this wasn't just my burden. This was real, out in the open, and there was no going back. I didn't go back home that night, not with the kids, not after everything I had seen. Instead, I left, quietly. While he was at work, I packed what I could, just the essentials, clothes for the kids, important documents, a few personal things, nothing that would slow me down, nothing I couldn't replace, because at that point, the only thing that mattered was getting out. I didn't leave a note. I didn't call him. I didn't give him any warning. I just left. We drove for hours, far enough that I could finally breathe, or at least try to. The kids didn't understand, and honestly, I didn't know how to explain it yet, so I didn't. Not fully, not then, that night. For the first time in days, I felt something, not peace, but distance, and sometimes that's enough. The next morning, everything changed. He found out. I know because my phone wouldn't stop ringing, call after call, text after text. At first, confusion. "Where are you? Why aren't you answering?" Then panic. "Please tell me you're okay." Did something happen? And then anger. "What did you do? Why did you take the kids?" I didn't respond, not once, because there was nothing left to say. But then, one message came through that made me stop. "Who told you?" I stared at it for a long time, because that question said everything. Not "what's wrong?" Not "did I do something?" but "who told you?" Like the truth itself was just information that leaked, not something real, not something that mattered. That was the moment something inside me finally snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, just cleanly, like a thread being cut. I blocked his number, right there, because I realized I didn't need answers. I already had them. Later that day, I heard what happened next from the people I trusted. He went home, walked inside, and saw it. The empty spaces, the missing things, the silence. And he lost it, completely, shouting, throwing things, breaking whatever he could get his hands on. Like destruction could fix it. Like anger could undo what he did. But it couldn't. Nothing could. Because by then, I was already gone. The silence didn't last long. Even after I blocked him, he found ways to reach me. Emails, unknown numbers, voicemails I didn't listen to. At first, it was still the same pattern. Confusion, then apologies, long ones, paragraphs about mistakes, about regret, about how he didn't mean for it to happen. Like that somehow made it better, like it just happened. But then, the tone shifted again, and this time, it wasn't him. It was her, my best friend, or whatever she was now. She started messaging me, over and over. At first, it was almost desperate. Please answer me. We need to talk. This isn't what it looks like." I almost laughed when I read that, because I had seen everything. There was no version of this that looked okay. But then, her messages changed. Blame. "You're overreacting. You pushed him away. You weren't there for him." I stared at my phone in disbelief, because if there's one thing I know, I was there every single day, even when I was falling apart because of my dad, even when I was exhausted, pregnant. I showed up, and somehow, in her version of reality, that still wasn't enough. I didn't respond, not to her, not to him, because I knew, once I started, it wouldn't stop, and I needed distance, real distance. Meanwhile, everything else kept moving. I met with my lawyer again. We went over everything: finances, custody, next steps. It felt strange, talking about my life like that, like it was a case. But I understood why it mattered, because this wasn't just emotional anymore. It was legal. It was permanent. I also started thinking about the kids, about how I was going to explain all of this. Because sooner or later, they were going to ask, and I didn't want to lie to them, but I also didn't want to hurt them. That balance felt impossible. And in the middle of all of that, something else hit me. A thought I hadn't fully processed yet. He didn't just betray me. He risked everything: our family, our stability, our future, for something temporary. And that realization, it didn't make me angry. It made me done, completely done. But the situation still wasn't over, because even though I had left, even though I had made my decision, they were still trying to pull me back into it, through messages, through pressure, through guilt. And I knew the next step was going to define everything. A few days later, everything caught up with him, not through me. I still hadn't said a word, but the truth doesn't stay hidden for long, especially not this kind. The people I told, they didn't stay quiet, and I didn't ask them to, because at that point, I wasn't protecting him anymore. They all met, his parents, her parents, all in one room. I wasn't there, and that was intentional, because I didn't need to be. Everything that needed to be said was already in those messages. From what I was told, it started quietly, too quietly, like everyone was waiting for someone else to speak first. Then the screenshots came out, one by one, message after message, proof, clear, undeniable, and that's when everything changed. Her parents were the first to react, shock, then anger, the kind you don't try to hide. Her mom kept asking the same question. Why would you do this? Over and over again. But there was no answer that could fix it, because some things you can't explain away. His parents reacted differently, quieter, but somehow that felt worse. His dad didn't say much at first, just looked at him, long enough to make the silence heavy. And his mom, she was shaking, not from confusion, from disappointment. And when she finally spoke, it was simple. I didn't raise you like this. That hit harder than anything else, because it wasn't anger, it was rejection. He tried to talk, to explain, to say it just happened, that it wasn't supposed to go this far. But no one believed him, because the messages told a different story, a planned one, a repeated one, a choice, not a mistake. And her? She broke, crying, trying to defend herself, saying things didn't mean anything, that she didn't want to hurt me, that it got out of control. But by then, it didn't matter anymore, because the damage was already done. After that, everything escalated. Voices got louder, accusations, blame, people talking over each other, trying to make sense of something that made no sense. And then, it was over. Not cleanly, not peacefully, but completely. When I heard about it later, I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel revenge. I just felt closure. Because now, it wasn't just in my head. It wasn't something I imagined. It was real, seen, acknowledged by everyone. But even then, I knew something important. This wasn't the end, not yet. Because actions like that, they don't just disappear. They leave consequences. And those consequences were just beginning. After that meeting, everything started collapsing around him. Not slowly, all at once. I didn't see it happen, but I heard enough to understand. He went home that night, walked into a house that no longer felt like his. Empty, quiet, missing pieces everywhere. And that's when it hit him. Not when he got caught, not when people confronted him, but when he realized I was really gone. That's when the calls started again, different this time, desperate. Please, just talk to me. We can fix this. I'll do anything, anything. That word always comes too late. Then came the promises, therapy, change, time, everything he thought I wanted to hear. But the truth is, I didn't want anything anymore, not from him. Because once you see something clearly, you can't unsee it. And I had seen enough. At the same time, things were moving forward legally, faster than I expected. My lawyer started preparing everything, custody arrangements, financial separation, all of it. And for the first time, I felt something unexpected, relief, not happiness, not yet, but relief. Like I could finally breathe again. But not everything was calm, because when he realized I wasn't coming back, his behavior changed again. The messages got darker, more aggressive, accusations, blame. You're destroying this family. You're taking my kids, as if he hadn't already done that himself. Then one message stood out. This isn't over. I read it once, then again. And instead of fear, I felt something else, clarity, because that message told me everything. He wasn't sorry. He was losing control. And that's not the same thing. That's when I made another decision. I stopped reading, stopped checking, stopped engaging completely, because I realized my peace was more important than his chaos. And slowly, things started changing. Not overnight, but little by little, the kids were adjusting. We found a routine, a new normal. And for the first time in a long time, there were moments of quiet, real quiet. Not the kind filled with tension, but the kind that feels safe. And in those moments, I started to understand something. This wasn't the end of my life. It was the end of a version of it. And maybe, just maybe, that wasn't a bad thing. It's strange how life doesn't stop, even when yours feels like it already ended. The days kept moving, one after another, and somehow, so did I. There were moments I didn't think I'd survive. Grief for my dad, the end of my marriage, everything changing at once. It was overwhelming, but I had no choice, because every morning, my kids still needed me, and that became my anchor, the one thing that never changed. I told them the truth, not everything, but enough. Mom and Dad aren't together anymore, and I explained it in a way they could understand, without hate, without blame, because no matter what happened, he was still their father, and I wasn't going to take that from them. They adapted faster than I expected. Kids are stronger than we think. There were hard days, questions, silence, but also laughter, moments that felt normal again, and slowly, those moments became more frequent. As for me, I started rebuilding, piece by piece, therapy, work, routine, learning how to exist in a life that looked nothing like the one I had before. And somewhere in the middle of all that, something unexpected happened. I felt lighter, not because everything was okay, but because I wasn't pretending anymore. I wasn't walking on eggshells. I wasn't trying to hold together something that was already broken. I was finally free. And then there was someone who stayed, not loudly, not pushing, just there, helping, showing up when I didn't even know I needed it. He didn't try to fix me. He didn't rush anything. He just gave me space and time. And for the first time in a long time, I felt safe around someone. I don't know what the future looks like. I'm not rushing into anything, not after everything that happened. But I do know this: I'm not the same person I was before. And maybe that's a good thing, because now I know my worth. I know what I deserve, and I know I'll never settle for less than that again. If you had told me months ago that my life would fall apart like this, I would have been terrified. But standing here now, I realize something. Sometimes things don't fall apart. They fall into place, even if it doesn't feel like it at first.